Welcome to the fifth video in our Connect Me series, Celebrate Your Street Together. Today we're looking at Digging Up the History Part 2, using other online resources and documents. So, Joe, why should we look at tithe apportionments?
Yeah, so this gives me a chance to illustrate the apportionments themselves. So that's the written record that goes alongside the map. That's what's so great about the tithe work of these sort of 1840s and that great mapping exercise that that the early Victorians did around Britain, is that they relate the map to more information. So I'm going to share a screen so that we can have a look at what that tithe apportionment that we were talking about in the last unit actually looks like. So here we are. So essentially it gives you the details that relate to that place. So including, and as you read along, so the parish that it's in, obviously, but more importantly the owner. And you'll see that William Arden for instance, he turns up more than once. If you look at the rest of your apportionment for that area and he turns up a lot, then clearly you've got a large landowner. And so that's a name that's going to turn up more and more in if they've got that much record, and they'll have a will and other records relating to them. So you can use that name for further research for the big landowners in your particular area. And sometimes, as you can see, they're the same as the people working the land. Sometimes they're not. So interestingly, we've got Mary Bailey and John Bailey here. John Bailey's working the land, as in occupier in column E. But where Mary Bailey owns it, then somebody else is working on the land or owning or occupying the land. So there's a relationship there. There's something to know about that. So that's the kind of inquiring mind that you can bring to your tithe apportionments once you've got that code from that plot number from your map. And I've highlighted the plot number in column F here. So that's the number that we identified on the actual map. So once you can find the field that sat underneath your house, as it is now, pick up the plot number and it will give you all of the rest of this information inside the apportionment. Right. So obviously it describes it, whether it was a field, a garden or a house. And of course, the size in acreage, roods and purchases.
Yes, what are roods and perches?
Don't even ask me, Alistair. I'm not even entirely sure.
Sorry. Those,
I'm not even entirely sure, but they relate to the size.
Right. It's so fascinating. I love those. I love those old names. Yeah. From even things like furlongs and chains. Yeah, I've come across. I'm fascinated by these kind of rather arcane sounding forms of measurement, and how do they relate, and how do they relate to our modern sense of feet and yards, or centimeters and meters? Yeah, and that relates to relationship with place, doesn't it? So a lot of these early measurements would have been, the physical walking of the field. Whereas now everything became standardized and mechanized, and that's a shift in thinking about place. I never thought of that, Alistair. But yes, I think that standardization and the sort of slightly more flexible approach of the past, rather in the way that kind of spelling became standardized over the years, and you would suddenly have people adding letters into words for making extra money in the sign, but it was kind of down to a human scale rather than a mathematical one in such a formal way.
Yes, the more standardized you get over, national standard or international standard, the less locally significant differences that you have. And of course, it's that hyper locality that's incredibly important and underpins the schoolometer technique. Interesting. All great new thoughts.
Yeah. So we've got some information, and then we need to go and find some links. We've got this idea about using a library catalogue. What's the best way to wade through that massive, fantastic information that we get in the library catalogue and make some sense of it?
Yeah. One of the first things that sort of underpins a lot of local history record search is don't really trust the first source that you come across, because most of us will go straight to the internet. But what Chinese whispers happens in local history research a lot, and even people who sort of do great work in local history will acknowledge that if they haven't gone back to check an original source, there could well have been Chinese whispers. And so we see it an awful lot in local history records. So somebody will hear something and actually it got changed and corrupted from the first time that it was noted. So that's an underpinning thing. Do go back and check your original sources. The best way to do that is to start with library catalogues online. So rocking up at your in Exeter Sense, it's the Devon Heritage Centre, which I adore, and they're incredibly useful and they're really wonderful. But of course, in COVID, we can't get there, we can't go there when we're just entering a period, as we're recording, of second lockdown. So, and for lots of other reasons, accessibility can be difficult. So I would always recommend that you start with online catalogues. So all of the Devon libraries have an online catalogue. Also, the Exeter University has an online catalogue, and there are ways in which you can access your local university's library, and they will have an online catalogue that anyone can access. So start there. The other thing that I would do is have a pro forma, so that you can actually jot down everything that your all of the sources that relate to the keyword search that you're after. Sorry, I interrupted you, Alistair. Did you?
No. I was about to ask the question. You mentioned university libraries, and what is it that's particularly useful about the university libraries?
Yeah. I love university libraries. I just love libraries altogether. But university libraries will be big, so they will be bigger than your local authority library. They'll be more detailed. They will also include all of those theses and dissertations that postgraduates do that never see the light of day again. so they will be incredibly focused on a particular issue. So they'll be quite specialist. But there are literally hundreds of thousands of these dusty tomes that people have poured their lives into for 2 or 3 years to create. And if they're not very lucky, then they'll never see the light of day again. And I think they're an absolutely gorgeous resource, and you should be able to find it through your online catalogue. If you get the right keywords, don't forget that there are these resources as well. The other thing about university libraries is that they are mostly, again, probably outside of COVID, but they are mostly free access for reference, and people forget that you can go in and use. So always go to the reception desk and check what your access as a local resident is. But the chances are that you will be able to go into your university library, which will be extensive and detailed, including all of this postgraduate work, and use it for reference. So yes, so if you live in a university town, give it a go.
Thank you very much.